So, yeah, your Bibles handy. John 21, starting with verse 15. And we're going to be reading 15 through 19. I'm going to get my timer because I can be a little long-winded. So I'm going to try to. John chapter 21. It's the very last chapter in John. And starting with verse 15. Yep. Get the clock rolling here. Okay. It's counting down. All right, so this is about when Jesus has to restore Peter back to service to Christ. So when you guys find it, I'll read it. So when they had eaten breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me more than these? And he said to them, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And he said to him, feed my lambs. And he said again to him a second time, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me? And then he said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And he said to him, Jesus said to him, tend my sheep. And then he said to him the third time, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me? And Peter was grieved because he asked a third time, do you love me? And then he said to him, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. So Jesus said to him, feed my sheep. So we need to look at what's going on here and go a little deeper. So there's actually two Greek words, and I tried not to go too deep into the Greek like I sometimes have to do. There's only really two words you need to be concerned with here, and it's the word agape love, which is what Jesus is using here in the first two times that he asks. And the other word is phileo. So Jesus asked Peter, do you love me? And Peter uses the word phileo instead of agape twice. And then Jesus uses the word agape twice. And then the third time, Jesus uses the word phileo. So what you can get out of that is Christ was actually meeting Peter from where he was at. It's like, okay, so Peter, if you're not ready for agape, then we'll take phileo and we'll work with that. So we do have some Greek words I wanted to go over, and we should have a little thing on the screen here with a little illustration. And there we go. You got the 8 types of love. And these are all in the Greek, except for one of them is actually Latin. I think well, we'll get to that. So anyways, agape love is unconditional love, or love for everyone that is selfless without strings attached. And this is the kind of love that we should have for everybody that we come into contact with, is unconditional agape love, because it's the same kind of love that God has for people. Then, of course, we have eros, which is romantic love. Eros is on the bottom there, which includes lust, physical attraction, and sentiments. So that's the kind of love that a man and a woman have in a marriage relationship. Philia is the word that Peter or Simon Peter used here, and that's like brotherly love. So that's kind of like the romance that Peter had going on with Jesus. He says, bro, I love you, but it's a phileo kind of love. It's a brotherly love. So that's the kind of love that Peter was talking about here. It's also a love among equals, also known as platonic love. And then we have storge, which is actually kind of also a Latin word, which was used in Latin and also in Greek. That's family love, such as the love between a parent and child, or a father has for a son. We have mania, that's obsessive love, which can sometimes lead to destructive relationships. That's an over the top love. That's like too much. Ludus is playful love, which is usually expressed in the initial stages of falling in love. It's kind of like the honeymoon phase of love in a relationship. And philautia is the love of self, which is associated with Aristotle and some Greek philosophy. And that's important too, because Jesus said we're to love others as we love ourselves. So we're supposed to have a little bit of self-love as opposed to self-hatred. All right, and then pragma is practical love. That's based on love, not logic, obligation, or duty. All right, so there's a few other things going on here in the relationship. First of all, when Jesus addressed Peter, he calls him Simon. Okay, so Simon is his old name, and Peter was his new name that he gave to him. So sometimes when Peter wasn't, when he was doing wrong or he did something wrong, it was kind of like your mom using your full name, like John Norman Fogg Jr., what did you do now? So that's kind of what he was doing there. He was chiding him a little bit without being condemning. So the next thing I wanted to tell you about was The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. How many are familiar with that book? Okay. So as a bit of humor, I also have the 5 taco languages. So we'll see that screen next. So words of affirmation. Your tacos are delicious. Acts of service. I made you tacos. Receiving gifts. Here's a taco. And quality time. Let's go out for tacos. And then physical touch. Let me hold you like a taco. So there's your bit of humor for tonight. A bit of levity to the situation. All right, so I got a few minutes left here, so probably about halfway through. All right, so I also want you to see what's going on here with Jesus and Peter. There's kind of an inner healing going on because Jesus actually undoes the curses that Simon Peter brought upon himself because he denied him 3 times with a curse. So Jesus had to unravel that by asking him 3 times, do you love me? Okay, so there's a verse in the Bible that says, if you deny me before men, I will also deny you before my Father. So Jesus didn't want Peter to have to live with that, with all the guilt that he was going through. The other thing was, Peter felt really bad that he had denied Christ, so it left him open to satanic attack. Okay, because in fact Jesus actually warned him. So he said, Peter, Satan has desired to sift you like wheat, but don't fear, Peter, because I have prayed for you. So Jesus already knew what was going to happen. He already knew that Peter was going to deny him, and that Peter would have to be restored back again. So Peter goes back to fishing, and this is right after the death of Jesus. He goes back to fishing. He goes to a different life. He figures, like, I guess this is over. I'm just going to go back to my old life and do what I know best. But God had other plans. So he met Peter and the other disciples at the shore, the other fishermen that were fishing with him. And he had some fish already broiling there, as you can see, and a little fire going on. And so then he just asks, do you love me? 3 times. Okay, so Peter, must have been guilt-ridden over his relationship. Jesus also said to Peter, when you are converted, go and strengthen your brothers. Okay, because he knew that Peter was going to have to go through a conversion experience. And this occurred. This is his conversion experience right here that we're witnessing when Jesus asked him 3 times, "Do you love me?" Okay, because Jesus was restoring him and also recommissioning him to go out and send the gospel out by asking him to feed his sheep. And you can also see a pattern in when he's talking about sheep. The first time he says lambs, feed my little lambs, which is a kind of a tender word there. But the second time he says feed my sheep or tend my sheep. And then the third time he says feed my sheep. So there's a progression there as well going on. And I think that's all I got time for tonight. So there you have it. That's all I got to say about that. Just Forrest Gump would say.